Thank you for tuning into another BlackSwanRadio.com production. I am your host, Rondell L. Jordan, aka DJ Black Swan. Today I have a little bit of food for thought for you to digest and discuss. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. And do not forget to leave your comment and share if you like the message. So here goes the word of the day. All right, what's up, y'all? What I'm gonna do right now is I'm going to show you the difference between, you see here, there's a difference between God, Lord God, all right? And then you will notice that right after chapter 3, we're in chapter 3, chapter 4 now, it's just Lord, all right? Lord is now operating on his own. As a matter of fact, at the end of this chapter, right, you will see the presence of God again in the quote from Eve, right? And then you will see, then men begin to call on the name of the Lord, right? So there's a difference between Lord and God, and there's a reason why the Lord is brought up, right, or is named after Seth, right? So Seth, from the Kemetic or the Egyptian perspective, was the evil god of the Redlands who murdered his brother Osiris and wounded Osiris' son Haru. So if you can see, that's the relationship between that story and the story in the Bible between Cain and Abel. All right, so we know that this is not a coincidence, all right? Now, we know that Seth is the god of confusion, discord, right? He's a nosy creature, right? And from the Greeks' perspective, he served a positive role, right? He's, let's see here. This is Jewish transition. They kind of edited Wikipedia here. But, okay, this is Seth in the Bible, but I'm looking for Seth. Set. Let's see here. Let's go here. All right, and if you can see, he's he was opposed. He was the Lord of the Red Land, where he was the balance to Horus, who ruled as Lord of the Black Lands. See what I'm saying? So if you were black, right, from the Black Lands, right, Seth isn't your god. Seth is opposed to you, right? And he was the god of desert, storms, disorder, violence, and foreigners from the African perspective. But from the Greek perspective, right, he had a positive role, right? He accompanies Ra, right, the sun deity. Let's look at Ra. Now here is the Urias, or Uraeus, or the Wajet. This is the female, the divine female, Amun, Amunet, all right? And this is the serpent in the story, because it's associated with wisdom, right, and divine connection to the God, the sun god. All right, so there's a correlation, but the African perspective, of course, has been taken out of context. So this is what we do at BlackSwanRadio.com, BlackSwanTV.org, is we piece together our history and put it back into context, all right? And so if you're interested in that type of content, I want to invite you to go to illuminatednubians.com, all right, and join our email list, all right, to receive content directly, and also invitation to live broadcasts and functions and different things that we have for members, all right? And you can also join us at our Patreon page, right, and receive more exclusive content as a member, all right? But I definitely encourage you to purchase a copy of one of my travel guides, and it's also a Bible study guide, a 2-to-1 thing. This is proof so real that you can see it for yourself in the scriptures, and then you can go and travel and see it for yourself, etched in stone, literally. So this is I don't know how much more true or solid truth that I can give you, and ultimately what I'm breaking down here is the difference between God who created and the Lord who had formed. Okay, and most people are not taught to recognize the two. All right, and one other thing I'm gonna quickly address in Genesis 4, and I did a whole lesson on this, to access that's at my Patreon. All right, and it goes into very a lot of detail about chapter 4. But for here, if you gotta notice that Lamech had 2 wives, Adah and Zillah, and these are the first 2 women who are mentioned after Eve. So you had Adam and Eve, and then you had Lamech, Adah, and Zillah. Now Lamech is in the lineage of Cain, you see, before the birth of Seth. All right, and then if you see that, just like Enoch, you see Cain's son Enoch born or a Cain, and then had a G-Rod, right? And then he begot Enoch, right? But look, Enoch was already born, right? It says that Cain had a son and a city named Enoch, right? And then you had Irad and Mehujael and Methushael, right? And the difference between Methushael, who begot Lamech here in Genesis 4:17, is just a matter of how they arranged the last few letters here. You see that? Now he begets Enoch, and then Enoch walks with God. So this is telling you that Enoch, the grandson of Adam, was taken just like Adam was taken, right? So at the end, this is when the Lord and God separated, right? When the Lord confessed that he had taken the man, right? He sent him out of the Garden of Eden to the ground from which he was taken. He was taken. The Lord God had took the man, right? He took the man. See, he took him and put him in the garden, right? And then he caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, right? He manipulated his, right? He used magic or hypnosis. He put him in a trance. He made him unconscious. And Adam didn't wake up until after the serpent opened Eve in eyes, right? And they became wise. Their eyes were open, just like the serpent said. And that's when his eyes was open, after he consumed the fruits of knowledge. All right, so we've been given a perspective that it really doesn't serve our interest because, right, the Lord is the Lord who is opposed to the African, to the black lands. This is the reason why it says, but the Lord, not God, came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. The sons of men, the builders, were the Nubians, the Kemites, right, the Cushites. And the Lord said, indeed, the people are one and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. Now, nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them, right? Come, let us go down in there and confuse their language. So the problem in the story wasn't disobedience. The problem in the story wasn't Nimrod being told by God. God is not even in the story. The problem in the story is that the people are one and they all have one language, right? So confirmation that unity is the problem. And this is what they begin. Now, nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. So as a result of their unity, as a result of their procreation, right, multiplying, prospering, right? Becoming successful. The Lord said, come, let us go down. There's that legions again, right? Like, go down there and confuse their language that they may not understand one another's speech. Confusion. The word confounded was originally used, right? In the King James, originally used the word confound. And the reason why is because the word confound means to surprise or to bewilder, to shock, right? To confound. It's like a surprise attack. This is supposed to surprise you, to amaze you, to keep you dumbfounded, staggered, surprised, startled, stunned, discomposed, flabbergasted, taken back, shake. You see all that meaning, right? And it's used twice here. And the point of the story is that the Lord scattered them abroad. And the reason why is because it said it 3 times, right? 3 times the charm. Scattered abroad, scattered abroad, scattered abroad. So this story confirmed itself that it's about a diaspora, people being scattered abroad. It's confirmed that this was the Lord of confusion that caused confusion, right? Babel is the third word. Babel is the third word for confusion. Confound, Babel, confound. So the Lord of confusion, right? The Lord of disorder, storms, the Lord of the red lands came down into the black lands. And how do we know that? Right before, it's telling you that before the Lord, right? Before the Lord, right? Nimrod was a mighty hunter. Specifically, it says before the Lord. And of course, it's done multiple times, right? So that there's not a coincidence. Before the Lord, right? And Cush begat Nimrod. Cush, again, that's the Nubians. The Nubians begot Nimrod, right? The country and the descendants of Cush. He begot Nimrod. Now, it says Cush begot Nimrod, but the sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah. Havilah was the actual son of Cush. Nimrod was begotten by Cush. He began to become a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, where it said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, right? Or like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, as the New King James says, right? Like Nimrod, the mighty hunter. So who is like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord? And the answer is Sahu. But the Greeks came in and they changed everything, the names of everything. So if you see, Sahu is been changed to Orion. And Orion was a mighty hunter, right? And before the Lord, meaning before the Greeks came into Egypt, before the Assyrians came into Egypt, all right? So, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. So the next chapter is about Nimrod. That's why they assume Nimrod was the one who rebelled against God. Erech, Elkadan, Calneh, all right, in the land of Shinar. So this is in Africa. This is in Kemet. From that land, he went to Assyria and built Nineveh, Roth, Ir, Kala, and risen between Nineveh and Kala. So then he went and built in Assyria. So we have Cush in Assyria again, just like in Genesis 2, right? Genesis 2, in the beginning, you have Cush, the second man mentioned in the Bible, and then you have Assyria. All right? These two kingdoms is in Genesis 2, right? Right off the river, right? That parted and became 4 river heads. So here's the river that watered the Garden of Eden, all right? And so, of course, this is all in Africa, so it was not in clear terms. But if you see anything that has to do with Assyria and Mesopotamia, it is clear. We know that the Euphrates River, right, is in Mesopotamia. So we know exactly where the Euphrates is at, right here. Mesopotamia, down through Canaan, down into Cush, the land of Cush. Now Hiddekel goes towards Assyria. It's the only river that goes towards Syria is the Nile. It 4 river heads, right? The river that becomes 4 river heads, right? And before you get to Cush, you got to go through Havilah. So Havilah, you go through Egypt, Havilah, Cush, all right? So you see they go through Havilah first, who's the son of Cush. So he's the first character named, right? Before Adam, before anybody else, Havilah is named. But we've seen already that he's the son of Cush, who represents the Nubians people, right? And their descendants, all right? So in order to understand, you have to put this back into African history, back into the biblical scriptures. You can see they use the Greek word Ethiopia, which kind of disconnects from Genesis 10, the Table of Nations, all right, where you have the word Cush used, right? Then you have Mizraim, which is the word that was used for Kemet before the word Egypt was used, all right? So Mizraim is the Hebrew and Aramaic name for the land of Egypt, all right? And because it ends with the I-M, it's plural, so it's ascribed to one of the sons of the figure Ham, all right? So basically it's saying that Ham's sons are the African Nile River Valley. This is Punt and Canaan. So again, if we look at the map, you see Punt, Cush, Canaan, right? And then here's Mizraim or Memphis here, whatever you want to call it, but it's Kemet, all right? And then if you notice, the name, the Lord comes down and he changed the name. He calls the city Babel. Just because he says the name is Babel, that's not the name before. We know this is they call the children of men in the old version, and the new version is called the sons of men. Okay, so the sons of men are the Africans who built the pyramids, who built the towers, okay, that we see in Giza. Then right after that, you see, now we got into the story of Abraham, who comes in from Mesopotamia. He's a Mesopotamian from the land of Ur. And he comes into the land of Canaan. You see the riverway right here. It comes into the land of Canaan, and then he goes down and enters Egypt. And the Bible is very, very truthful and honest of what was transpiring, right? He goes into the land of Canaan, then he continues to head south into the land of Egypt, because there was famine in this land, right? In the land they were coming from. So they go into Egypt, and then when they enter Egypt, the first thing they do is conspire, right? It wasn't really a lie, because she was technically his half sister, but instead of saying that she's my wife like she was, he told her to behave as his sister, to make herself seem like she's available, to entice, to get into the house of Pharaoh, to spare his own facial contendants. He was scared of his the way he looked, because he did not look like the Egyptians. Okay, so it says that there's a couple things here. Number one, it says the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abram's wife. So it's very, very clear, right? Why did you say she's my sister, right? Their ways was something that caused drama. When they say they plagued the Pharaoh and his house, they talking about the nation. You're talking about Pharaoh is the government, the system, and his house, everything, the people, everything in his domain.
All right, and this is very important to understand that he treated Abram well for her sake. He had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male and female servants. You see how that's put in between the male and female donkeys? Male and female donkeys split up. Then they put male and female servants in between that. And then you have camels, oxen, and sheep. These are all domesticated creatures, right? Which includes the male and female servants, which is being disclosed, being hidden. You see the concealed. You see the effort right there. All right. So this is proving that, we are being subject to Stockholm, right? We are worshiping an entity that is opposed to the people of our likeness. So now you have the land of Egypt, the Greek term Egypt being used, right? You have male and female servants, and this is where you're going to end up getting, you see next, Abram inherits. How does he inherit Canaan, right? And he's going to inherit it, Ham's blessings, by mixing with Hagar, who was an Hamite, Mizraim, but the word Egyptian is being used. And she was a maidservant, which will be later described as a bondservant, right? The bondservant. And she ends up giving birth to Abram's firstborn son, right? And they end up beginning the circumcision tradition. And then the son of promise, right? Just like Cain and Abel were separated, Ishmael and Isaac, right? So as soon as Isaac is born, then Ishmael and Hagar are like Cain and Adam. They were sent out, right? But if you can see that God heard the voice of the lad, then the angel of God called Hagar, right? So God did not forsaken the African people. It was the Lord, right, who favored the opposition to the African people, right? You can see here a tree in Beersheba, and there called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. Now, Abram, God is not the God of the Egyptians, right? Matter of fact, this is what the toe-to-toe battle in Exodus eventually comes to, all right, where Moses, who is now Hebraic, he's mixed because Hagar found her son an Egyptian wife, right? And let's see if right, it says that God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. He dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. So this is basically breeding the lineage back black. All right, so this is how you get the black Hebrews, right? Whereas, okay, you have the seed of Abram, who was blessed, right? And because he had a child with the Hamite woman, right? And they got the circumcision together, right? Now he inherited Ham's birthrights, land rights, and become Abraham. He takes on Ham as a last name. So now he's a whole entity, a man with Assyrian, Mesopotamian, and now the Hamite, right? The three sons of Noah. All right. So if you guys have any questions regarding this segment, please leave your comments. You can also email me your comments at blackswanradio@gmail.com, and you can also message me at my Patreon. All right. And with that said, until next time, Thank you for listening and keep the faith. Peace.